안녕하세요. MSC2031 이지우이고요. 제 발표하는 영어를 시작할 테니 지금부터 본격적으로 시작해 보겠습니다. Okay, so this is my presentation of the interview I did related to my dream job and career path. So before starting in earnest, I'd like to introduce you my dream job, which is cryptographer. A cryptographer is a person who writes encryption codes for data security. And in the field of cryptography, there's a lot of different fields that connect with it. There's a lot of computer science and cybersecurity in particular, and this is why I interviewed Dr. Morrisett. You might be wondering why I interviewed a computer science researcher. However, Dr. Morrisett has diverse interests and he's quite renowned in the field of cybersecurity as well, which is why I decided to interview him. So this is what I sent him. This is the Gmail I sent him, and as you can see, the reason why I did this interview was that I wanted to try to actually understand his career, and I thought the most efficient and effective way would be interviewing an expert in the field, who was Dr. Greg Morrisett. As you can see here, and as I said priorly, Dr. Morrisett is a cybersecurity expert, but he's also the Dean of Cornell Tech. And yes, you didn't hear me wrong, he actually is the Dean of Cornell Tech. There's a very interesting story of how I found him. So when I first tried to find these people who I had to interview, I thought that if I search cryptography professors, there would be some kind of contact form, and this was actually way harder than I expected, and I had to go around the internet for quite a while until I found Cornell, and I went into the cryptography research field where I saw Dr. Morrisett in the first place. So I went to this field, I went to this website, and I found his Gmail contact form, which is how I found him. However, what I didn't know is that you can also find him by just typing Cornell into Google, and when you find Cornell, he's basically the first person that pops out. I did not know that he was the one that controls the entire Cornell Tech, and this was quite surprising for me, since I had no idea I had the chance to talk with a person who was so high in a renowned school like Cornell, which is also an Ivy school. Anyways, going right away to my questions. My first question was, what inspired you to pursue the cybersecurity field, and how does it relate with cryptography? He answered, I am interested in making computer-based systems. In particular, I'd like to prevent bad actors from stealing or destroying information or attacking people from institutions. Cryptography can be an important role in preventing these bad things from happening. So why I asked this was that I wanted to know if this person was who I wanted to interview, and his answer was actually perfect for me. I was finding a person who worked in the cybersecurity field and also had a lot of knowledge of cryptography, and as you can see in his answers, he's quite perfect in that field. The second question was, what skills and qualifications are most important for success in this field, since I wanted to prepare for my future job. So, he answered two things. One is mathematics, the other having the mindset of an attacker. On the mathematics side, there are some beautiful connections between cryptography and fields, such as the study of prime numbers that are surprising and powerful. On the attacker side, most of the failures that occurred in systems happen because we need an assumption, such as the bad guy will never send a message longer than 1 gigabyte, and then that's exactly what the bad guy does. More generally, security and cryptography is hard because the defender must stop all possible attacks, while the attacker only needs to come up with one hole in the defense. So I learned quite a lot of things in this answer. I already am quite studying in mathematics, but I didn't know that you had to be having the mindset of an attacker, kind of like psychology. And now that I see his answer, I get how having the mindset, trying to understand how the attacker will think is quite crucial in this field, which is what I have to prepare and what I will prepare from now on. My third question, what do you find most fulfilling in your job? He answered, I work in a university, so training young people to be creative and to realize their dreams is what I find most fulfilling. So, as I said, the field of cryptography extremely varies and has a lot of connections with other fields, and I got to realize this again as I saw that you could actually combine education with cryptography again, just like Dr. Morrisett, since he works as the Dean of Cornell Tech. And I also have been quite interested in education for quite a while, so I realized that I could kind of combine these two if I wanted to. Moving on. Can you share some of the key challenges you face in the field? I wanted to know this since I had to prepare again and try to actually know the biggest obstacles in the field. One challenge is that quantum computers can break certain kinds of cryptography. We think we know how to build cryptography that can't be broken by quantum computers, but we need to update all of the software and hardware that uses the old forms of cryptography. But this costs a lot of money and time, so finding ways to do this economically is a challenge. Another challenge is that we don't know for sure that our current cryptography is actually secure. We think it is, but there are some key assumptions that we are making about mathematics and computer science that may not be true. For example, we think it is very hard to write a program that will take a very large number with thousands of digits and factor it into its prime components. But we don't have a mathematical proof that this is a hard problem. We just haven't been able to find a proof that it is hard. And indeed, quantum computers can do this factoring much more quickly than normal computers. So there were two things that I learned from this answer. I already did know about how quantum computers are quite an obstacle for the cryptography field, but I didn't know that cryptographers around the world already have a way of kind of blocking against these quantum computers. But the real problem is that changing all of this and updating all of this new cryptography to software and hardware is going to be economically a challenge. I thought it was all like you couldn't make it in the first place, but I found out that what our future generation has to focus on is to make these new cryptography ways to be more efficient. And another thing I learned is that I already knew that prime factoring, or factoring into prime components, very large numbers, is already quite hard in cryptography field. However, what I didn't know, again, in a similar way, is that cryptographers around the world don't have a mathematical proof that this is a hard problem. This is quite a new way to look at it, and it was quite groundbreaking for me. My fifth question was, can you recommend any books, courses, or resources for someone like me who wishes to enter this field? He answered, I'm not sure of good books at an 8th grade level. One that might be good is Break the Code, Cryptography for Beginners by Bud Johnson. He said he wasn't sure, but it's this book here, and I kind of researched about the book and got to find the preview of it. And after looking at it for a while, I think he actually recommended me quite a good book. It looks quite rudimentary, but when you look at it quite carefully, there's a lot of cryptanalysts and a lot of words that are used in cryptography and practices that you can decode ciphers and try to become an actual cryptographer in the future, which was quite successful for me in this question, I guess. My second last question, what advice do you have for someone such as me who wants to pursue a similar career? He was quite short and emphasizing in this answer, and he said, take lots of mathematics and computer science courses. So again, I already am focusing quite a lot in mathematics, but computer science, I knew already that it is quite important, but I haven't been confident enough to study it since I haven't looked at computer science for my entire life, but now that I think about it, there's no reason to not start computer science, and it will be helpful for me in every single way to become a cryptographer. So he really made me realize this again. My last question, can you share any insights on the future of the cryptography related jobs and where you see them heading? He said there are lots of interesting things that can be done with cryptography that people don't realize are possible. For example, it's possible to encrypt a database so that if it leaks, a bad guy can't read it and still run a query on that database. For instance, asking what data is associated with a given person, without revealing that information to the bad guys. However, it costs a lot more time and energy compared to a normal database. So one thing we need are more efficient ways of computing things under these fancy cryptographic schemes. People are trying new algorithms, new hardware, and new mathematics to try to solve these problems, so there are lots and lots of challenges like this waiting for a smart person like you to solve. So again, I realized that efficiency is quite what I have to focus on in the future if I want to be a cryptographer, I have to focus on efficiency. But another very interesting thing I saw from his answer was that he called me a smart person, and I don't want to be proud about this, but a person like him calling me a smart person was quite well, intriguing, I guess. So overall, general feedback. This is the email I sent him after his reply, and to kind of review, I felt three things overall. First, the answers really resolved lots of questions about my career path, and it will help me on and on. And secondly, I realized I should work more on computer science, as I priorly said, not just mathematics. Lastly, this interview will incentivize me and my journey of becoming a cryptographer. Points like he called me a smart person, they were all motivating me to actually, become a cryptographer. That was all for general feedback, and to conclude, to all of those who want to pursue the cryptography field like me, I hope this video was helpful, and I hope you focus on some of the points I analyzed about Dr. Morrisett's interview, and if we ever get the chance, I hope we meet in the future. I hope you succeed, I hope I succeed. And to Dr. Morrisett, who gave me a very concise and concrete interview answers, I really like to appreciate that, and I really like to thank you, Dr. Morrisett, who should be a busy man as Dean of Cornell Tech. But that was all for the video, that was all for the presentation, and thank you for listening. 감사합니다. MS2031 이지호였고요. 제 발표를 마치겠습니다.